The time is now 7 o'clock, and I would like to call Beloit City Council meeting to order at this time. Can we have a roll call, please?
Roll call shows all councilors present with the exception of Yusuf Adama.
Second order of business is Pledge of Allegiance. Will we all stand and join me in the pledge, please?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next order of business, please.
Item 3 is special orders of the day and announcements. There are none. Item 4 is public hearings. 4A is the public hearing on the 2025 operating, library, and capital improvements proposed budgets.
Garrett?
Good evening, Council. So tonight we are doing the public hearing on the proposed 2025 budget. So the total budget for next year is proposed to be at $117 million. This is an increase of just a little under $7 million, roughly about 6% increase from 2024. The total enterprise fund budgets are about $384,000 higher to just under $22 million in total. Special revenue funds actually decreased by close to $4.5 million. And our capital improvement budget increased by roughly $9 million, about 63%. So 80% of our budget is personnel, salary and benefits. And so we always like to highlight what some of the personnel decisions were going into the proposed budget. We didn't have a lot of them this year, but a few that we did have. We had a part-time community service officer, and animal control person moving to a fleet position. We had a seasonal intern being added to the police department. We had a seasonal office assistant at Grinnell Hall being converted to part-time from seasonal. We had a slight restructuring in some of the seasonal staff at the Blender Cafe, adding those seasonal employees back in there. And then every year we do take a look at our allocations for the full-time staff who do work in between departments. So we did that review as well. Some other financial highlights that we had going into 2025 was an actual decrease in net new construction from 2.5% to 1.25%. Based on some legislation that was passed last year, there was an increase in shared revenue, $364,000. On that same legislation, we are showing a slight increase in our highway aids of $163,000. The biggest impact of that legislation from last year was the personal property aid exemption that we'll be receiving in 2025. That'll be just over $700,000. But you'll see a lot of that offset from the tax levy, as it was a direct reimbursement from the state for that personal property exemption. We again saw an increase in assessed and equalized values going into 2024 of roughly 12.5% and 5% respectively. The property tax levy did come down by about $490,000. That's that direct offset that I was just referring to on the personal property exemption. And then, of course, we still are under strict levy limits. And here is our proposed levy going into 2020 or for 24 collected in 25. You see that decrease of about $490,000. We did have that increase of 12.5% on the assessed values. And so when you combine the lower levy and the higher assessed values, that's really what's driving the tax rate down to roughly $1 per thousand of assessed value, down to just over $6.50 per thousand of assessed value. This is a chart showing where we were and where we are projected to be on our local tax rate. You can see how it really declined in 2022. That was again based on a revaluation that we had done in the city, along with a successful TIF district that closed, our TIF district number 10. It then leveled off last year, And then you can see that declining again by about that dollar per thousand of assessed value due to the factors that I just mentioned. Here are those assessed and equalized values that we were talking about earlier. You can see how that has steadily increased over the last 5 years. In 2022, we did the reval to capture that equalized value that was out there. You could see that gap start to increase again in 2023. So we did another reval in 24 to capture that equalized value to try to get that assessed value up to that equalized number. We're still at about a 94.4% assessment ratio, meaning that we're about 94% of the market. So the next steps will be coming back here on November 7th to, for your consideration for adoption of the budget. This meeting is Thursday, November 7th. We moved that meeting to Thursday to help with the election that will be on that Tuesday. So it's important to note that it is a Thursday, not a normal Monday. This is a public hearing, so there's no action tonight.
Thank you. At this time, I would like to open the public hearing on item 4A. Is there anyone wishing to speak on item 4A this evening? Anyone wishing to speak on item 4A this evening? Third and final call, anyone wishing to speak on item 4A this evening? Seeing none, I would close the public hearing on item 4A. And next item, please.
4B is public hearing on 2025 Home Investment Partnership Program budget.
Julie. Hello.
So the city is a member of the Rock County Home Consortium, and as a result, we get money allocated to us every year along with Janesville and Rock County. So we receive 28% of the total project funds for the Rock County Consortium, and then we also receive administrative funds. For 2025, we're estimating that we'll receive $150,000 in new home funds and $15,000 in new home administrative funds. And then we also anticipate using program income received in 2024 and prior year funds. And then we're required to include the projects that will continue into 25 in that budget. So for the 2025 budget, we're estimating a total of about $1 million for housing projects and $166,800 in administrative dollars. This includes 2025 funds, prior year funds, and program income. We do anticipate in future years, once we get through, the administrative funds are set aside for our update of our consolidated plan for the consortium and the analysis of impediments to fair housing. We expect to roll those dollars into projects in future years. And so what we already had, you've already approved and are just beginning is the construction, new construction at 1115 Summit. So we gave WPHD $133,000. We gave them $133,000 towards a house at 1321 Sherland, and it's another $133,000 for 1325 Sherland. They're anticipating to pull those 3 permits within the next couple of weeks. Community Action has a new construction plan for 2210 Forest Avenue for $150,000. That permit's already in. And then Community Action last year got so off the top of the consortium monies, 15% automatically goes to what's called a CHOTO. Last year, that money, or for 24, that was allocated to Community Action, and we've committed $40,000 to do another house, which would start in the fall of 2025. And then setting aside, we are currently under contract with NeighborWorks for some down payment assistance for a total of $664. So some of that budget is existing projects you are already awarded, which will continue into 25. So this is the overall budget, which shows the grant. And then we anticipate about $85,000 in new program income that came in 2024. There's about $814,000 in prior year funds. And then we're setting aside $418,800 for new construction, which are the existing projects that are which are planned. $333,006 for acquisition rehab. We continue to own 737 Bluff, which we'd like to rehab. We've had difficulty getting contractors during COVID, but we want to take a shot at it again. And then we want to put some money into homeowner rehab to allow people to upgrade their houses, and set aside some additional money for down payment assistance because we do want to try to continue to see home ownership. And then we have money set aside for administrative expenses as well. And with that, I guess I'll go back. And then CDA did look at this budget and did recommend approval.
Thank you. At this time, I would like to open the public hearing on item 4B this evening. Anyone wishing to speak on item 4B this evening? Please step forward and state your name.
Yes, I'm Carol Wilkins with Messiah Lutheran Church Food Pantry. I just came here tonight to thank you for letting us being considered for this funding. We need these funds so very much to continue our work in feeding those in the greater Beloit community. So, thank you so much.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak on item 4B this evening? Third and final call. Anyone else wishing to speak on item 4B this evening? Seeing none, I would close the public hearing on item 4B and move to item 4C, please.
4C is public hearing on 2025 to 2029 Consolidated Plan, 2025 Annual Plan, and 2025 to 2029 Neighborhood Revitalization Strategy Area Plan and 2025 Community Development Block Grant Budget.
Carrie.
Thank you, Marcy. Good evening, counselors. I'm not going to go through the whole yellow sheet. I've been told to keep it brief, so you do have it in front of you. There's the schedule of all of the activities for the CDBG program. In red is what today is. So today is a public hearing on the consolidated plan, the annual action plan, and the budget. And I'll go through what those are for you in the public here in this PowerPoint. As you know, HUD requires us to do a number of reports in order for us to receive these funds. They are given to us on a formula basis as long as we do certain things. So every 5 years, we have to have a consolidated plan that reevaluates the needs of the community and then lays out how we're planning to spend the funding over the next 5 years. Attached to the consolidated plan is an annual action plan for 2025 for the first year. So it's two plans in one document. I'll get into this a little bit later, but the annual action plan also has the consolidated plan has an addendum, which includes our NARSA plan. Both plans include specific objectives for housing, homelessness, public housing, and community development, and include information on the CDBG process, affordable housing, and special needs populations. The city's consolidated plan for 2025 through 2029 and the 2025 annual action plan, which includes the 2025 CDBG budget, will be considered by council on November 7th of 2025, so the same time the budget comes forward. This is just a public hearing today. There's no approval for it today. The 2025 annual action plan outlines how the city intends to allocate the CDBG funds over the next year and must be consistent with the city's 5-year consolidated plan. The process includes the following steps. We do local funding priorities, which are approved by council. The applications are made available to agencies interested in applying for CDBG funds. That's made available for 30 days. Each applicant presents their application to the CDA. Staff and CDA complete an assessment of each application, including scoring based on how well the activity aligns with the needs, goals, and objectives of the consolidated plan, NARSA, and annual funding priorities, as well as an assessment of the agency's history and future capacity to administer the proposed program using federal grant funds. If an agency doesn't spend their funds according to the federal regulations, the city could be at risk to having to pay that money back. So that's why we do that kind of risk assessment for the agency. We need to make sure they have capacity to be able to follow through with all of those federal regulations. CDA makes its recommendation to the City Council on how the CDBG funds should be allocated, which CDA did review those and did make a recommendation for the funding. And a public hearing is held by City Council, and then the City Council adopts the CDBG budget. So we're in that public hearing phase right now. 2025, the local funding priorities that were passed by City Council, there are 8, right? 7 funding priorities. The first one is a category of public services. So public service programs which focus on comprehensive case management, strategies with priority given to neighborhood stabilization activities, housing assistance, education and life skills, employment training, health and mental health care access, transportation, youth programs, senior services and programs which offer bilingual services and outreach to better serve Latino residents, and activities which meet one of the NARSA objectives. Just for the audience, I know you guys know what NARSA is, but for the public, NARSA stands for Neighborhood Revitalization Strategy Area Plan. Code enforcement, housing rehab, housing activities like direct home ownership assistance and down payment assistance and closing cost assistance. Economic development activities with priority given to job creation and retention, employment training, and technical assistance for small businesses and micro enterprise businesses, program administration, and fair housing. Neighborhood Revitalization Strategy Areas, or the NARSA, allows the city to target CDBG resources to support community revitalization efforts and create opportunity in distressed neighborhoods by stimulating the investment of human and economic capital and economically empowering low-income residents, and provides incentives by offering regulatory relief from some CDBG regulations and requirements. So the regulations establish a criteria for approving locally coordinated comprehensive strategies for targeting the revitalization of neighborhoods and requires extensive community consultation and participation in revitalization efforts. So the regulatory relief, this is how that works. So normally our CDBG funds, we're only allowed to give 15% of our entire CDBG budget to outside agencies to carry out public services. So there's a cap on that, and that's a federal regulation. We can't give more than that. If we outline certain neighborhoods that have additional needs, and we do a community consultation with the neighborhoods to find out what those needs are, and we create different strategies and objectives to meet those needs, then we're allowed to give more money to agencies to carry out those needs. And it's exempt from that 15% cap, so it goes outside of that 15% cap. So this gives regulatory relief from the 15%, so we can give more funds to agencies to carry out direct services to our residents. So HUD requires that designation of a NARSA be included in the grantee's consolidated plan or submitted as an amendment to the grantee's annual action plan. We are submitting ours as an addendum to our consolidated plan, so as part of our consolidated plan. And then in our annual plan every year, and in our CAPER, which is the final report every year, then we have the objectives, and then we report on the objectives and the targets that we set out in that plan. The city originally adopted its NARSA plan in 2017 as an amendment to the 2017 annual plan and the 2015 to 2019 consolidated plan. The current NARSA plan is an addendum to the city's 2020 to 2024 plan, so we'd like to carry it through. We did neighborhood meetings again, and we're still wanting to do this NARSA, these NARSA activities, so it will be attached to as an addendum to our consolidated plan for 2025 through 2029. It's been very successful. The proposed Beloit NARSA plan includes as an addendum to the city's proposed, I just said that. The NARSA plan provides specific action steps towards overall economic empowerment and improved housing opportunities in the 2 census tracts, with the ultimate goal of establishing safe, healthy, and stable neighborhoods and ensuring all Beloit residents have meaningful opportunities for economic stability and growth. So the census tracts you'll see at the bottom are Census Tract 16, which is the Hackett neighborhood, which is the square, the lower square, and then Census Tract 18, which is a Merrill neighborhood, and that's the kind of, it's not a square, it's a, I don't know what that is. But the community consultation happens, then needs are identified, goals are then identified, and then strategies to carry out those goals are identified. Throughout the years, we've had 3 categories: neighborhood revitalization, resident empowerment, and public safety. So we've had goals and strategies under each category. Those have been very successful over the years. So, and when we went out and did the needs assessment and listened to the neighborhoods, they still fall under those three broad categories. And so we decided to do goals and strategies again under those three main umbrellas, if that makes sense. Grantees can receive regulatory relief and greater flexibility in the following CDBG rules: job creation and retention as low to moderate income area benefit. So if we don't have a neighborhood, if we don't have a NARSA, under economic development, some of what we can fund wouldn't be eligible if we didn't have the NARSA. We can aggregate public benefit standard. There's an aggregate public benefit standard exemption. That is also under economic development, correct? Julie? Yes, okay. There's a calculation that we have to do for economic development for like so much money per job. But if we have a neighborhood revitalization strategy area, it lowers or it decreases that requirement, and we don't have to put as much money. We could actually provide more, money for more jobs. I don't know how to explain it other than that. We don't have any programs this year that falls under that. That's why I'm a little rusty on that. Aggregation of housing units. So this one is an important one. So housing units assisted in approved NARSA during each program year may be treated as a single structure for purposes of meeting a national objective. So the city must maintain documentation that demonstrates 51% of all single and multifamily housing units completed in a NARSA area were initially occupied by low and moderate income households. In contrast, outside of a NARSA area, 100% of the single family homes must be occupied by low to moderate income households. So what that means is we have a housing rehab loan program, for example. Without a neighborhood revitalization strategy area or NARSAs, 100% of the people that we assist have to be low to moderate income. If we have a NARSA in those NARSA areas, we can actually assist people with our programs who are above that income level. It allows us to provide funding to residents that might be above that income level. So there's not such a hard cutoff. As long as 51% of everyone we serve in the each NARSA area meets that low to moderate income standard. Does that make sense? Okay. And then public service cap exemption, which I already talked about, where we can fund public service activities outside of that 15% cap. It allows us to give more money to our local nonprofits to carry out public services, but the activities have to be carried out by a designated community-based development organization, or a CBDO. She talked about CHODOs, which is different. That's under home. That's a community housing development organization. This is a CBDO, which is different, and it's specifically for under NARSAs. So what is a community-based development organization? It's an association or corporation organized under state or local law to engage in community development activities, which may include housing and economic development activities, primarily within an identified geographic area of operation within the jurisdiction of the recipient. So this agency has to have as its primary purpose the improvement of the physical, economic, and social environment of its geographic area of operation by addressing one or more critical problems of the area with particular attention to the needs of persons of low to moderate income. That's a mouthful, but that means that we can't just fund any agency because they might be located in a NARSA or they might be serving NARSA residents. There's a very specific purpose that the organization has to have already had, or if they're a new organization, that is what their main purpose is to meet these needs. They have to maintain at least 51% of their governing board, their governing body's membership for low to moderate income residents of its geographic area of operation. So even its board members have to be local. Owners or senior officers of private establishments and other institutions located in and serving its geographic area of operation, or representatives of low and moderate income neighborhood organizations located in its geographic area of operation. So if they can't find enough residents, they can still work with agencies that serve the local neighborhood, and representatives from that agency can be on their governing board. So eligible activities that's CBDOs can do is they may provide CDBG funds to any CBDO. So the city can provide funds to a CBDO qualified to carry out a neighborhood revitalization, community economic development, or energy conservation project. So neighborhood revitalization project includes activities of sufficient size, scope to have an impact on the decline of a geographic location. So that's important too. So that's why we don't do micro grants in the NARSA areas unless they are paired with maybe a citywide program. Then we'll do that because then the entire program will have a bigger impact on the community as a whole. That makes sense. To carry out a project means that the CBDO undertakes the funded activities directly or through contract with any entity other than the grantee. So the city can't carry out these activities on its own. So we couldn't hire somebody to do this work and pay our own staff. It's meant to be done by these outside organizations that have a direct connection with the community, with the neighborhoods. So I'm going to turn it over to Brian because this is our annual budget for 2025, and he's going to give you. He's a lot more familiar with this piece of it, so I'm going to let him talk to you about that. Before I go, the full consolidated plan and NARSA are in the packet if you want to review them. You'll notice there are some things that are highlighted. Some things we can't fill in until the decision is made, and then we'll go in and fill in those numbers. And then there's some things in the NARSA that I still have to update, but everything from the neighborhood meetings and everything, that's all included in the NARSA. I just have to do some fine tuning still. So based on public comment and things as we go through the public comment period.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Terry. And for the public, if they're interested in those plans, they're also posted on the City of Beloit's websites under Community Development, as well as here in the lobby on the first floor, up on the third floor, as well as the Beloit Public Library. So I'm here to talk about the actual awards for the 2025 CDBG. And what we're looking at here is $785,000 of estimated revenue. That comes from an estimate of the 2025 CDBG entitlement grant. That's what we think we're going to get from Housing and Urban Development. It does fluctuate year to year. And when that does come in, we will be making some very small staff budget changes the last minute before we actually have those contracts signed. We also have what we're estimating to be about $95,000 of our city's housing rehab program income. That's those loans that are coming back, they're being paid, residents are being sold, that money's coming back for those housing rehabilitation projects. And then there's also $120,000 of unspent prior year funds from that program. So that gets us to the $785,000. That's important, not only because that's how much we have to award, but it gives us the 15% public service cap that Terry was talking about. So when we go into the next slide, you'll see that we only have that $104,250 to give to those citywide public service projects. And then also the 20% of the total funds and the 20% of the grant that we can spend on the planning and administration. And again, that's a cap. That's the total amount, the maximum total amount that we can spend on those things. And that's, again, federal law. So moving on to the public service budget. Oh, do I have it? Yeah. I was waiting for Marcy to do it. We'll be waiting here for a while. Again, we've got the $104,250, and like Terry said, what happens is the CDA and staff score all the applications. The staff makes a recommendation, and then the CDA makes a recommendation. So what you're seeing here is the CDA proposed budget all the way to the right. And for public service, this is really easy because all of it's coming from the CDBG grant. Most of these programs, all these programs, do not have program income. That's something that we have to set up beforehand. It's kind of a special case. We do have it for other categories, but not for public service. And then you'll also see that none of the proposed applicants here have had any prior year unspent funds. So it's all coming from the 2025 CDBG budget grant. You'll see here that the CDA is recommending a partial funding. The minimums were $7,500 and the maximums were $15,000 for this category. And they're recommending the Beloit Citywide Youth Softball, Community Actions Fresh Start, Community Actions Project Thrive, Echoes Rent Assistance, this is the citywide project, Family Promise Emergency Shelter, Family Services Defy Domestic Abuse Shelter, Welty Environmental Center, Messiah Lutheran Food Pantry, Project 1649 Robin House, Retired Seniors Volunteer Program, and State Line Literacy Council. So that brings us all the way to that very top of the cap of the $104,250. These are important programs to the city. They do a lot of really good work, and it's important to us that we're using that full cap for these programs. Moving on, like Terry said, we've got a little bit of extra leniency for the NARSA programs. These are public service, but for the NARSA area specifically. So instead of the $15,000 maximum ask, they can ask up to $50,000 per award. And CDA is recommending a $45,000 proposed budget for Community Actions Resources Navigator, $20,000 for Echoes Rent Assistance Homeless Prevention, which is specific to the NARSA neighborhoods, different than their citywide award, $45,000 to Family Services Neighborhood Resilience Project, $45,000 to Legal Action of Wisconsin's Community Lawyer Project, and then $8,500 to the neighborhood cleanup at Hackett, and $8,500 to the neighborhood cleanup at Merrill. This brings us to the $172,000 for the total NARSA awards. We also have the City of Beloit Code Enforcement and Inspection Program. You'll see that there are no prior year unspent funds here. We do have some program income of $86,000. We expect from that CDBG grant to put another $89,000 for a total of $175,000. Next up, again, we've got the cap at $114,000 for planning and program administration, and then $133,000 from the grant. We, for program administration, don't have any prior unspent funds, $9,000 of the 2025 program income, and then adding $114,000 from the CDBG grant, which gives us $123,000. Fair housing activities, we are recommending $10,000 from that. And then housing activities, the City of Beloit's housing rehab program, we have $120,000 of prior year unspent funds, an additional $80,750 from the CDBG grant, and then no economic development activities that are being recommended for this year. Any questions on the proposed 2025 CDBG budget? Excellent. Thank you for your time.
4C is down for a public hearing. At this time, I would like to open the public hearing on item 4C. Anyone wishing to speak on item 4C this evening, please step forward and give your name and your municipality. Is there anyone wishing to speak on item 4C this evening? Second call, anyone wishing to speak on item 4C this evening? Third and final call, anyone wishing to speak on item 4C this evening? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing on item 4C. Call next item, please.
Item 5 is public comments.
We have reached a point on the agenda for residents to speak to the council about issues that are coming before us or may come before us in the future. Council members may not act on any request at this meeting, but may refer a speaker to staff for assistance. We ask that you hold your comments to 3 minutes or less and refrain from personal attacks of any kind. Public comment is a courtesy, and we expect everyone to conduct themselves in a civil manner. Speakers are asked to complete a public comment form. Madam, did anyone complete Madam Clerk, is there any forms completed this evening?
There are. We're going to start with Brian Northrup.
I'm here to speak about the City of Beloit fire resources going outside the city. My name is Brian Northrup. I'm retired from the Beloit Fire Department for 33 years of service, leaving as a deputy chief in charge of EMS. As you may know, South Beloit is a contract with the town of Beloit to provide staffing for South Beloit, and a contract with Newark Township to provide fire and ambulance service. In South Beloit, the staffing of today can only provide an ambulance. No fire truck is available in South Beloit. The battalion chief in the city of Beloit supervises all three departments in regards to fire response for no additional funding. West Side City Fire Resources respond to Newark Township directly for free. My best analogy to explain it, if this were snow plowing, the town gets paid and the city does the plowing. The start of the contract with South Beloit and the township have only exacerbated the problem of city fire resources going outside of the city. Providing assistance to other departments has long been an accepted policy, just not using all of the city resources outside the city to do that. Last week, Chief Pease met with the Rockton and Roscoe fire chiefs to inform them that the South Beloit would not have an engine available due to not having the required training to operate that engine. Today, I sent this in an email, then today, there was a fire in South Beloit, in the city of South Beloit. So for that response, South Beloit had an engine available. The reason there, because the battalion chief from the town of Beloit happened to be in the station. So he responded with the engine to go to the fire. So they responded with 3 personnel from there. The staffing on the schedule showed him placed at the Afton Road Station with only 2 personnel scheduled to be at South Beloit. The response also included an engine from the city and a battalion chief from the city, an engine from Rockton and a chief from Rockton, a truck company from Roscoe and a chief. The town of Beloit had an engine available in the Afton Road Station, but it did not respond. The town of Beloit has the contract with South Beloit. All the other departments provided that response today for free. I want to thank you for your consideration on this topic. Thank you.
Thank you.
Up next, we have Andrew Milner.
Yeah, good evening, counselors. I just wanted to, I know one of the things coming up in your budget was funding for legal action. And, I just want you to make aware that, I understand that, it has noble intentions, it does good things, but, there's some, unintended consequences to this. For example, I guess it's some of the people that they're defending, is leading to deteriorating quality of housing stock and also increased rents, by having to, defend, I guess, in some of these cases they're doing. So I guess I'm just here tonight to, just maybe keep an eye on it and kind of plant that bug in your ear. So thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Joyce Ruff.
I used to know, and I wanted to say hi to him. Yes, ma'am. I can't get rid of my help, so I don't try. But anyway, my name is Joyce Howard Ruff, and I spoke before, and I'll speak again about the Turtle Creek. And as a young girl, I grew up living upstairs from the Peterson family. O.C. Peterson was a role model to my mother and then to me. She, along with others, made sure we African-American children had as much to do in Beloit, Wisconsin, as the Caucasian children. For some reason unbeknown to me at that time in my life, we, the children of color, were not allowed to swim at the big pool, as they called it then. We did not know about the segregation. We were too young. We did not know about the big pool that we were not allowed to go to. Actually, because of O.C. Peterson and others, she made sure the Black youth of Beloit had many recreational outlets. People like O.C. Peterson, Wyetta Brannigan, Diane Henry, Fannie Bird, Mr. Hicks, Sally Howard, Pastor Wilkins, and Walter Knight, just to name a few, made sure our growing up in Beloit was as great and safe as white children growing up in Beloit. Therefore, it seems only fitting that the entrance to the Turtle Creek Swimming Pool and Park be named in honor and remembrance of Miss O.C. Peterson. Sincerely, as I said, Joyce Howard Ruff. I'm a retired 33-year school teacher, a past elected member to the Beloit School Board, a Beloit College graduate, and a citizen of Beloit. Thank you.
Thank you.
Deanna Evans.
Good evening, council members. I am the great-granddaughter of O.C. Peterson, and I have put together a letter. I hope this letter finds you all well. I'm proposing the naming of the street leading into Turtle Creek in our beloved city after an exceptional individual who made significant contributions to our community. And with a beacon of hope and inspiration for many, this trailblazer name is O.C. Peterson. I would like the street, if approved, to be called O.C. Peterson Lane. O.C. Peterson was not only a dedicated member of our community, but also a passionate advocate for social change and service. Her tireless efforts in various social groups, such as she was a chartered member of the Order of the Eastern Star, Rebecca chapter. She was a member of the Women's Culture Club, the NAACP Beloit branch. OC left an indelible mark on our community. Whether it was through organizing charity events, mentoring local youth, or participating in other community initiatives, O.C. Peterson amplifies what is meant to serve others selflessly. O.C. was a longtime member of Bethel AME Church. In 1992, O.C. was inducted into the Beloit Historical Society. O.C. Peterson ran the Turtle Creek Swimming Pool for over 20 years. The pool is now a forgotten monument to Beloit's not-so-distant, segregated, and often forgotten past. I remember my mother, father, uncles, and other community leaders telling me that when they were growing up, this pool on the east side, was for Beloit's African Americans. The west side had the big pool, which was Kruger Park, and the east side had the little pool, which was called Turtle Creek. But what they really had was de facto segregation. Over the years, I've heard many stories about the fun times African Americans had at the little pool, Turtle Creek. In addition to her local involvement, O.C. Peterson played a pivot role in addressing critical social issues and affect other communities. She worked diligently to raise awareness about equality, women's rights, social justice issues, and mobilize community members to take action. Her leadership and commitment to fostering a culture of inclusivity and support have enriched the lives of countless individuals. By naming a street after O.C. Peterson, we can honor her legacy and ensure that future generations recognize the importance of her work she did for our city. It serves not only as a tribute to O.C. Peterson, but also a constant reminder of the values of community service, dedication, and compassion that she embodied. I urge the council to consider this proposal and take the necessary steps to bring this to fruition. Let's celebrate our local heroes and inspire others to follow in their footsteps. Thank you for your time and consideration. I look forward to seeing our community continue to thrive and honor those who have made it a better place. Sincerely, Deanne Evans.
That was it for forms submitted.
Okay, is there anyone else here wishing to speak that didn't have the opportunity to fill out a form? Please come forward at this time.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Dorothy Harrell, and I bring you greetings from the State Conference of the NAACP and also from the Beloit Branch 3251, the oldest branch in the state of Wisconsin. The Beloit branch of the NAACP was established in large part by the contributions of Mr. Leon Peterson and his wife, O.C. Peterson. O.C. came to Beloit in 1920 to visit her sister and met Leon, who was already here and the first person of color ever hired by Wisconsin Power and Light. He worked for them for over 45 years. And in fact, at one point, the Wisconsin Power and Light had a 4-year scholarship that was called the Leon Peterson Scholarship, and I had the honor of receiving that when I graduated from Beloit Memorial High School. O.C. had been hired to work in the home of one of the managers at Wisconsin Power and Light, but she and her husband became very active in community events in this city. In fact, Mr. Peterson became the first secretary of the NAACP, and Mrs. Peterson was a devoted and active member of that chapter. When I was attending public schools here in Beloit, just as the previous two speakers have stated, we did not go to the natatorium. I lived on the west side. I grew up on Chestnut. I went to Burge School, but we did not go to the natatorium. That was the pool that the white students went to. There was segregation in Beloit, and Turtle Creek is evidence of that. Black students went to Turtle Creek for their activities. Black children went to, not just the children on the east side either, children from citywide went to Turtle Creek. Turtle Creek was very active in the 50s and 60s and a designated recreation spot for African Americans. Mrs. Peterson became the face and the voice of Turtle Creek. Anyone who visited that park knew who she was. She hired the workers at that park. She managed the park. She made sure the park was safe. I attended several meetings that the city held starting back in 2019 on the Turtle Creek Master Plan. I attended those meetings with Mr. and Mrs. Peterson's grandson, Leon Peterson, who recently died in July. This would have been his mission had he lived. One message that was stated repeatedly in those meetings is we do not want the park renamed. The African American community in Beloit does not want this park renamed. We want it to remain Turtle Creek, the name that we knew, the name that we grew up with, the name that is synonymous with the black community's recreation in Beloit. What they're asking for is a designation for Mrs. Peterson in her name. You've heard her great-granddaughter say that she was interested in having O.C. Peterson Lane. And that would, whatever you do with the name, if you put it on the pavilion, if you put it on the lane, that's fine, as long as we have a designation that includes, honoring her. So this is not an ask to change the name, because if that happened, there would be significant pushback from the people who had attended those meetings. But an ask for a plaque or some kind of designation, or the city to name the street after Mrs. Peterson for her years of dedication to the park and to the community. Mrs. Peterson was a force in this community and a public servant. So in your meetings this evening, I see that under 6F, you're going to be considering Turtle Creek. Please keep in mind that when you're looking for the improvements in the Turtle Creek area, we're very thankful that you made the decision to have an entrance off Park Avenue. And now if you would consider renaming part of that in honor of Mrs. Peterson, we'd be forever grateful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good evening, Drew Pennington, Economic Development, and I'm here tonight on behalf of the USS Beloit Commissioning Committee. We're excited to share that earlier today the Navy announced the commissioning of the USS Beloit will be held on Saturday, November 23rd of this year in Milwaukee, which is very exciting given it's just an hour or so away from its home community, Beloit. So we're excited about this. I wanted to publicly thank the members of the committee, which are planning all of these special events leading up to and including the commissioning, which is the formal ceremony that places the ship into service. Our website is ussbeloit.org. That is the place where the public can find information about this process. We'll be reaching out as best we can in the coming weeks to make sure that the public is aware of how to get tickets. First of all, they're free. You can get a ticket for free on that website in the coming days. The location is Veterans Park in downtown Milwaukee. The event itself will be at 10 a.m., will last approximately an hour or two, and then there will be a reception hosted by the committee, again free, to the public. Transportation will also be detailed on that website. That will include where to park if you are able to drive, as well as how to sign up for a bus from Beloit, again provided by the committee. So we are particularly interested in engaging with family members of Fairbanks Morse, retirees and workers, as well as veterans. We're working with Vets Roll, obviously, and the VFW is represented on our committee as well. But these are groups that we really want to engage with and make sure that everyone that has a hand in the reason for the USS Beloit, which is primarily Fairbanks Morse, has an opportunity to get to this event. So ussbeloit.org is the place to keep track of this. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other speakers? Did we receive any emails?
Yep, I have one. In regard to the charging station across from YMCA, just checking up to see after several requests if both charging cables work. The station is located in the public lot across from the YMCA. For most of the summer, only one worked. The city engineer was supposed to get it fixed. It's been very frustrating. Please advise Judy Warner.
Thank you.
Okay.
Anyone else wishing to speak under public comments? Seeing none, I will close public comments and move to the next item, please.
Item 6 is consent agenda. All items listed under the consent agenda are considered routine and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the general order of business and considered at this point on the agenda.
Thank you. The consent agenda consists of items 6A through 6H. Will anyone like anything removed from the consent agenda?
Yes, Mr. President. I would like item 6F removed from the consent agenda.
6F?
Yes, sir.
Anyone else like anything else removed from the consent agenda? Seeing none, the consent agenda will consist of items 6A, B, C, D, E, G, and H. Can I get approval of that portion of the consent agenda?
I so move.
Motion by Forback, second by Dench. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor of approving, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none. Item 6F, please. Consideration of Resolution 2024-129, improving Phase 2 improvements in Turtle Creek. Bill here or Jerry?
Bill's not here. I suppose I could read through the background information about the resolution there, but if there
let me do it this way. Councilor Blakely, is there any specific questions that you would have? So,
Yes, sir. I know that the improvements list includes various items, but I don't believe at this time that there is consideration of renaming Turtle Creek Park. I just wanted to double check that, and because of all the people we've had testifying this evening.
That is correct, Councilor Blakely. There is no intention of renaming it with this item on the agenda.
Very good. That was my main point in double checking. I think the meetings we've held on it have been very fruitful. There's so much interest in it.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
But essentially, this action is just related to the structures that are going to be installed in the park. And so that went to both landmarks and parks and plan commission. And so Public Works will still bid all those improvements, but any kind of naming would follow the process you followed in the past, whether it's an honorary or you've talked about a policy for naming on a going forward basis, but that would be a separate action item.
Great.
Yeah, and so I think just moving forward, thanks, Julie, but moving forward, this is just approving the Phase 2 improvements, and then as we move down the road, if we move forward with, as Mrs. Evans said, if there's an intent to name the entryway or whatever, that comes down at a later date, but this is just getting the ball rolling as far as the improvements go. So good question.
Thanks.
Any other questions on item 6F? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve?
Vote approve.
Motion by Councilor Terrell, seconded by Councilor Blakely. Questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor of approval, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none. Next item, please.
Item 7 is licenses. There are none. Item 8 is ordinances. 8A is consideration of ordinance number 3852, amending the zoning district map of the city of Beloit for the property located at 2221 Milwaukee Road.
Thank you. We did have a presentation on this. This is on our agenda tonight for a second reading. Is there a motion to approve?
Move.
Motion by Terrell, second. Second by Forback. Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor of approval say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, passes. Next item, please.
8B is consideration of ordinance number 3855, amending the zoning district map of the city of Beloit for the property located at 2426 Prairie Avenue.
Thank you. We've also had a presentation on this. This is on our agenda for second reading. Is there a motion to approve?
I so move.
Motion by Forback, second by Dench. Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, that passes. Next item, please.
8C is consideration of ordinance number 3857, annexing 1990 East Bradley Street into the city of Beloit from the town of Turtle.
Is there a motion to approve?
I so move.
Motion by Forback, second by Blakely. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor of approval say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, item passes. Next item, please.
Item 9 is appointments. Up for appointment is Louise Austin for Board of Review with a term ending December 31st, 2028.
Is there a motion to approve?
Yes, I so move
Motion.
enthusiastically.
Motion by Forback. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Dench. Any questions or comments?
No,
Seeing none.
comment.
Comments?
Just that
Councilor
she's an
Blakely.
excellent candidate, and I applaud her efforts to serve the community.
Thank you. We do have a first and a second. All those in favor of approval say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Next item, please.
Item 10 is council activities and upcoming events.
Councilor Blakely.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to tell everybody that if you're watching this from home, in just a few minutes at 8 o'clock, PBS is showing Our Story, Wisconsin Hometown Stories, Beloit. That comes on at 8 o'clock on PBS Wisconsin. And then one other thing I wanted to mention is Grinnell Hall, the Senior Center, is having a special event related to Halloween on Wednesday afternoon at 2 p.m. There's a special speaker who has written a lot about hauntings in Rockford, and she is going to give a talk at 2 o'clock Wednesday. That's free and open to the public. Thank you.
Councilor Day.
So you asked me to mention this, but I will. I should.
Check it.
There is a groundbreaking ceremony that's taking place on Friday. It's for our new casino. So that's going to be 11 o'clock, and it should be a fun event hosted by several people, quite a few speakers. The nation's going to be there to provide a ceremony. There's going to be dancing. They're going to bless the ground, do other things, but it's been an hour long. So we're looking forward to it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Any other comments? Councilor Terrell.
None to report.
Councilor Forback.
I just want to encourage everybody to get out and vote on the 5th. Our next meeting will be not until November 7th, so vote between our meetings, please. It's very important. That's all. Thank you.
Councilor Dench.
I just want to congratulate the people who were inducted into the Beloit Historical Society Hall of Fame a week ago Sunday. 5 new inductees into the Hall of Fame, all, of course, worthy of it. Cindy Lobby, who is an educator, Jim and Sarah Caldwell, for all the work that they've done in the community. Charles Hart, who is one of the architects of Beloit 2000. John and Mark Finnegan, the organizers of Vets Roll, and then former City Councilor Regina Duncan, all 5 inducted to the Hall of Fame. So congratulations to them. That is all.
Thank you, and I have no report. Next item, please.
Item 11 is city manager presentation. There is none. Item 12 is reports from boards and city officers. 12A, the city council may adjourn into closed session pursuant to section 19.85 sub 1 sub E Wisconsin statute to deliberate or negotiate the purchasing of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session, namely to discuss the potential purchase of 514 Highland Avenue. The council will not reconvene into open session.
Is there a motion to go into closed session?
I so move.
Motion by Forback, second by Dench. Any questions or comments on that? All in favor of going into closed session, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none. We are in closed session.